Hi, Mike Swenson here with the Elite Advantage team, and I'm going to do just a quick market overview. I know a lot of you guys are probably curious about how the real estate market is doing. You've heard a lot of probably stuff in the media about how hot things are, so just wanted to give you a few stats just to help you along the way. So I've got a few different areas pulled up. I've got the Twin Cities market as a whole, Minneapolis and St. Paul, just because they're the largest cities we have in the Twin Cities, and then I just picked one suburb, Maple Grove, just because it's a large suburb, just so we can see how the data is a little bit different in the suburbs versus in the cities. So first things first, I wanted to just cover days on market. So as you can see each year, going back, days on market gets less and less and less and less. So this year, we actually peaked a little bit lower than we have in the previous year. So February was our peak with 20 days on market. Going back to, January of last year, we peaked at 44. Previous to that, once again, 44, 45, 54. So things have been going down over the years. And then we didn't quite have, you can see this trend line here is a little bit different than what we've seen in some of the past years. So it's kind of a sharp spike and then it comes back down more quickly. And here it's been a little bit more gradual. So right now, as of June, current days on market, Twin Cities is 7. And then you can see in a suburb like Maple Grove, it's 5. So things are moving really quick here. So that's days on market. Another tool that we use is month's supply of inventory. So if everybody that wanted to buy a house bought a house, how quickly would that inventory get scooped up? And you can see here, right now it's 1.2 months in the Twin Cities. And in Maple Grove, it's at 0.9 months. And so you can even see, kind of the surge here that we see each year, a little bump, a little bump, a little bump. And then Minneapolis had a bigger surge. Obviously, we had a lot of stuff going on last year, so not as many people were buying in Minneapolis. So we saw that spike, but you can see here it's getting less and less and less every year. So that's month supply of inventory. Another tool that we use is looking at showings. So the way that we see if the market's adjusting is first we see showings, because if people aren't going on showings, there's less likely activity for offers and kind of moving down the pipeline. So if we look at showings here, there's a couple things that are interesting. So the number of showings that happen for each listing. So this is where you started to hear all these reports of the crazy market. You can see Maple Grove got as high as 27.5 showings per listing. On average in the Twin Cities, we're at 18.5. St. Paul with 22, Minneapolis with 13. And that, even if we're going back to last spring to summer, with COVID was a little bit of an anomaly, but even at that, we were 10 to 12 showings per listing. So this is where we saw that crazy activity. And even in past years in the spring, as high as 11 to 15, up to 15 there. So we've never had anything quite that high to get up to 18. But right now, as of June, only 7 showings per listing in Minneapolis. Maple Grove is on the high side at 15, and the Twin Cities average is 11. Showings per pending. So this is how many showings it takes for the house to go pending. Once again, we see this huge spike here that was, February, March, April, and then it comes way back down here, May into June. So we're returning more towards some more normal levels as far as where we've been at in the past. So Minneapolis 13, St. Paul 17, Twin Cities average is 17 showings to a pending. And so going in past years, you can see there's always a little bit of a bump that happens spring into summer, and then it goes down into the winter. So this is obviously a huge spike. So that is another stat that we look at. And then another one that's interesting is percent of original list price. So if I'm going to list my home at $300,000, you can see here in the past, kind of where it peaks out in the summer is pretty close to 100%. So on average, I'm going to get $300,000 for my $300,000 home. But then here we saw these crazy stats going up. So we were up to 101, 102, 103, and currently we're looking at 103.5% of list price. So, what does that mean for me? you're looking at, if I list my home for about $300,000 on average, it's going to sell for roughly $310,000, and even higher in some of the other communities. So that is still really high right now. What you'll experience is, we call it buyer fatigue. So you've got so many buyers. They're looking at a ton of homes, as we saw by the showings that are happening. They're putting in really high price offers. And so eventually there's some sort of fatigue that happens where the buyers are tired of looking, they're tired of putting in offers that get rejected, and they're tired of the prices that they're going to have to pay to get a house. And so you see that start to taper off a little bit. So it's possible, we don't really know trends till we get too far in the to be able to look in the rearview mirror, but we have seen some slowings happening here. So it always happens a little bit in the higher price points and works its way down, just because there's a larger buyer pool in the kind of $350 range and below. So we've seen less showings, we've seen less offers, and yet at the same time it's still very competitive. If we were to look back to this time compared to 2 or 3 years ago, it's extremely hot. But if we were to look at where the market's at today versus maybe where it was at 2 to 3 months ago, it has cooled down a little bit. So they're still paying high prices, as you can see, but the activity has started to slow down. Now, the high prices is also a result of the low interest rates, because if I can afford a better payment because I get a low interest rate, I can afford to pay more for that home. So you're seeing a little bit of inflated prices because you're seeing great interest rates and people want to lock those in. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of a perspective here on where the market's at. Just want to be a resource for you, and the agents on our team want to be a resource for you. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Check out our website, eliteadvantageteam.com, and we can help you out.